The Joe Rogan Experience.
Welcome to the Digital Academy. Thanks for checking out this video. This is from the great Joe Rogan, and he has on the show today two very interesting guys talking about the Tic Tac UFO sighting. Man, you know, on this channel I usually do stuff around philosophy and psychology and history, but you know, this one tweaks my interest. You guys have seen from my other videos already about Rogan that I'm a supporter of the Joe Rogan Experience, trained by day, Joe Rogan podcast by night, all day. But yeah, and then UFOs, man. Do I have to say anything about why UFOs and aliens are interesting? And it's like so insane to me that this stuff is now at a level that it's actually being acknowledged by you know, military personnel. Right, so this is what they're going to be talking about. So welcome, thanks for checking this out. I hope you're having a great day and staying strong and being a good person and taking care of yourself. All right, we're getting through this. Right, distract yourself for a few minutes here. This is an interesting conversation.
The TikTok craft or Tic Tac craft, goddamn
yeah,
TikTok.
TikTok. Yeah.
Can't get away from that word. The Tic Tac craft. That was spotted off San Diego, it performed something spectacular in terms of its ability to go from the surface of the water to 60,000 feet in how long?
So less than a second, but there's actually more to it. There was a craft. Remember, I was talking with Commander Fravor before this was public.
Yeah.
There was a craft under the water too. The Tic Tac would drop from 60,000 feet, is what they're saying, 60 to 80. But that's the scan volume of the Spy 1 radar. So everybody I've talked with said they were coming from above. They were coming from outer space, dropping down within a second and stopping on a dime and then making the movements Commander Fravor saw, like inside of a glass. Then he said to me in our first talk ever, I'll never forget.
I just wrote a quick note in case any of you haven't seen this. Since I'm recording this in a power, sorry about all this extra motion. Since I'm recording this in a PowerPoint, I'll add another slide after and I'll embed the actual footage. Okay, so in case you haven't seen the footage that they're talking about, which you have to see if you haven't seen, I'll embed it in, it'll be in this video at the end. Okay, cheers.
At this, because I'm talking to a fighter pilot and I got to talk fighter pilot and I don't, you know, and he says to me, it noticed me. I go, what do you mean it noticed you? And he says, as I was descending rapidly to engage it, it turned its nose and began to intelligently mirror my movements, came right up by me, and he says, faster than you can see, like you can't even see a bullet leave a gun. No, it just, bam, shot off. He goes, we don't have anything like that. I wish we did. We don't. Whatever propels that is not a reactionary propulsion system.
So in case you don't know the guy talking right now, this guy's a documentary filmmaker. He's made some incredible documentaries. And he's talking about his, I believe right now he's talking about his interview with a guy named, I think Favor is the guy's last name. And he's a actual fighter pilot that engaged these crafts. And I think the TikTok footage is either his or somebody on his fighter pilot team. And or he was on the aircraft. I kind of forget the story, but I'm sure they're going to review it. But this guy's like a high level documentary filmmaker. In case people don't know, you probably already know.
Meaning it's not pushing something off the back to get it to go forward,
like everything
like
else,
fire and explosions.
It's a field propulsion. Yeah, like anything else we know, you got to have something going back to go forward. Rockets, we're still using the same ones from back in the day. This thing instantaneously, without effects of inertia, can move. Now, and that distortion, that's exactly how Bob described these things would work or do.
So sorry, I'm not sure what he's about to say, but the idea there is instead of having, like, say, a rocket where there's the propulsion behind it pushing it forward, that it almost seems like these crafts are, it's almost like they're doing something to distort gravity around them, and it's like the gravity's falling away from them. So they're not pushing, they're manipulating, and that's how they're getting there instantly. It's a science fiction style concept, right? But just if you're wondering, it's not an engine in the same way of how we would, because we think of things as propulsion engines, that there's some kind of, whether it's your you know, whether it's like a rocket literally spitting fire out the back, or whether it's some kind of fuel thing propelling forward. They're saying, no, this is actually a manipulation of forces where they're moving into then that created empty space instantaneously with no inertia. What he just said, no pushback, no force, sort of. It's mind-blowing.
Work, in his opinion. So Commander Fravor got to see it. Now,
Fravor. I said flavor. Sorry.
Look, there's stuff George reports on. There's a lot he doesn't. As a filmmaker myself, people tell me stories all the time.
Yeah.
These incursions, it's not a rarity. These are happening to this day. I just heard about one in Guam. Incursions over high security airspace over our weapons systems. And in Guam, there was just recently an incursion. The Pantex facility with the igloos where we hold our nuclear weapons and stuff like that, there are incursions over these. So to George's point, the reason why maybe all of this is secret is not because we can't handle it, people flip out. Maybe we just want to make sure we fucking get this tech first because it's a game changer.
Now, let's talk about the people that have tried to debunk this and why they're off. Because they've made some debunking claims about some of these videos and about the technology that was used to track these things.
This is Rogan from just a few days ago.
That's incorrect.
Just so you know.
Where they don't really understand what they're debunking.
Right.
So please explain that, because that's one of the things that people are immediately going to go to. They're going to go, well, Mick West has already debunked it. And I've read the stuff that he says. It's mental gymnastics to try to explain it the way he's explaining it without recognition of the fact that these things were actively blocking radar. These things were actively blocking tracking systems. These were physical crafts. This is not like a bird.
No.
Or so,
It's
like a lot of the...
See, this is one of the reasons why this is so important, is like they're actively blocking. So it's like the military, U.S. military planes are shooting their radar, or they're trying to use their, you know, their surveillance technology on it, and they're actively blocking. And it's important to realize that actively blocking in that way is an act of war. So say if that was Russia or China, say if like, because that's a potential, like theoretically that it's not alien at all, that it's a different country, right? And if they were doing that in our airspace, right, American, Canadian, I still say our airspace, right, that would be considered an act of war. To be in our airspace secretively doing reconnaissance, spying, actively scrambling the systems, and then that's just a whole nightmare of issues, because that assumes the technology is human and is being used militarily. But who knows? It's got to be a part of the conversation at least, though.
Wacky theories that he has are like, I wonder, you know, it's real weird, like that a smart man can make such really bizarre conclusions. Very weird. Almost like someone wants him to do those.
Sure. I mean, look, it's so exciting that we're seeing something and the government's saying, okay, these are UFOs. We have not identified them. They have propulsion techniques that we don't have. And we're just talking about the videos.
Let's talk about the debunking, though.
Okay.
Talk about the debunking and what his claims are in the debunking.
Okay, so one that I recently, attacked because it was so ridiculous is he
Great
was
way
saying
to
that
approach this,
the
Rogan.
Go Fast video, which is this, object that goes along in a straight line, one of the 3 videos that was released. He said what was probably a bird. That was his first theory.
Let's pull up the Go Fast video.
Oh, they're going to show it here.
I mean, I recently went deep into talking with Boeing experts who work on these FLIR pods. They're telling me how they work, what they can capture, why.
Explain what a FLIR pod is.
A forward-looking infrared. So basically on fighter planes, you have a camera.
So here's the video. We're pulling it up right here.
Sure, that's mounted. And it's essentially recording in thermal imagery. These things are, this is not Instagram. These things are weapons systems that are highly trained to be able to accurately represent spatial awareness and to be able to target, enemy combatants. This is not an iPhone, an Instagram. These are weapons for us. So
These are
out of the 3
cameras
videos,
on gunners.
if we just look at this one, although I like the Tic Tac one, Commander Fravor, and I like the gimbal one. Those are awesome. This one gives us very little information. But the idea that this would be a bird if you talk to anybody that uses these pods,
That's insane.
You can't pinpoint on a bird. You can't lock a weapon system on a freaking bird.
Well, look how fast it's going too.
Well, here's what's so interesting is everybody can debate speed.
So this is where it's locked in on it.
Right.
So the weapon system is locked in on this thing, and it's tracking it now.
Right, and they got real excited when they locked it because they said boxed a moving target, right? So here's the deal, though. Out of anything I could say about this video, because there's not a lot of information in there, what I can say is that object you're seeing is colder than the surface of the ocean. Now, I looked up the surface of the ocean temperature at that location at that time because we had the information.
Colder
it was
than
like
the surface of the
65
ocean.
degrees. What propulsion system? So a bird is about 100 and let's say 5 degrees, like a seagull. Seagulls can go maybe 15 miles an hour. I don't know how fast they can go, but they wouldn't be colder than the ocean. They'd be hypothermic and dead. It cannot be a bird because what we're seeing is a colder object than the surface of the water. That's why you're seeing it white.
And how fast is it going?
That's under debate. There's different.
That's an incredible point.
Interpretations?
Yeah. So I'll give you one interpretation about 240 miles an hour. Some people say, and then they can argue, well, the fastest bird in a nosedive could go that fast. So back up. We have an object that is colder than the surface of the ocean. That immediately gets rid of the bird theory because a bird would be hypothermic and drop like a paperweight into the water. It cannot fly at that. So that's the piece of information I would attack that debunking with.
But this video, when you're watching that, if it is going 200 miles an hour, that's not outside of what's possible with spacecraft or aircraft or just planes.
Right, but it's cold.
I understand that.
That's pretty cool.
But it's very interesting. But it's not moving anywhere near as fast as the Tic Tac.
No. This is just something, because this is part, and George can tell you, this was part of a much bigger series of events. So like the gimbal craft itself, that's another debunking thing. They said it's a plane banking away and you're seeing it through thermal. First of all, talk with the pilot. Not fucking so.
This is the gimbal.
Yeah, the gimbal.
He's pulling it up right now. And
so,
how fast is this thing supposed to be going?
The speed, from what I recall, wasn't registered on the radar. It's not that it's going fast. If you talk with the pilots, it was rotating. It was spinning like a top, and for like 11 hours without refueling. I mean, the thing was just sitting out there. This was not a... This is an occurrence that happened over a course of many weeks. Now, when it rotates like that, the debunking theory is that you're seeing a plane bank. So as if our military doesn't know what another plane is. Other planes look very different when you see them through thermal. This thing was self-rotating, and I just did an interview.
And how fast is this, or rather, how warm is this thing supposed to be? Is this supposed to actually be hot?
I am unaware of...
Because you're looking at it through thermal, right?
Yeah, I'm unaware of the specifics of that one when it comes to heat. All I know is that it is self-actuating. It is not something that is a glare or flare of a heat signature making it look like it's turning. The actual craft is self-actuating.
And what is that halo around it?
That's just an artifact of the FLIR thermal. It's not.
The premise that the U.S. government would tell you, all right, look, we're going to release these videos.
He hasn't said a word yet. I love this guy. This guy, if you don't know, is George Knapp, man. I don't even know how to do his introduction, but maybe just like he was kind of a podcaster before podcasting in radio and kind of just in interesting stuff. Sometimes political, sometimes conspiracy. Anyways, he's just like a great not old, but a great interesting person, super interesting radio personality. That's what I meant to say.
Reluctantly, Lou Elizondo is the guy that got them released, and then the U.S. government formally released them a couple of months ago. The idea that the U.S. government would release it, the Pentagon says these are unidentified. If it was a bird or a jet
awesome.
engine, the pilots would not have the kind of reaction that they had that you can hear on the audio.
Yeah.
Our government does not tell members of Congress. The Pentagon doesn't go to the Senate Intelligence Committee, show them those videos and say, yeah, it's unidentified if it isn't. And
one of the reasons I wanted to use this clip to present this idea of UFOs is like I respect all three of these people individually. So it's very interesting that this is becoming that's being talked about at this level.
The reaction of the pilots, the fact that they were forced to release it to begin with, suggests that it really is unidentified.
Why do you think they've addressed it? Why do you think that they have addressed the fact that they're studying these things? Why not just continue denying it?
I think they were forced to. And some props to Tom DeLonge. I know you guys had a...
And if you don't know what they're talking about, you can just Google like U.S. Navy releases footage of UFOs or something like that, and you'll find it immediately. And it's relatively very recent. Right, and I've been interested in UFOs since like the 80s, right? And it's like to think that we would be watching a video of actual footage from a U.S. military Navy pilot, sniper gunner, recorder. That's, man, it's got me very, very fascinated. Sorry to interrupt.
Pretty spirited conversation when he was here, but he created an organization. Lou Elizondo, who ran that program, came forward and brought with him those videos. I saw them 2 days after Lou Elizondo stepped on a stage with Tom and said, I was in charge of the program. He and Chris Mellon have been sort of the engineers of getting that story into the New York Times. That changed everything. As I said, the last 2.5 years, everything has turned on its head. The New York Times covers the story. The result is other media covered as well. They've been ignoring it forever, and that allowed people who keep these secrets. That pressure meant that people in Congress started asking questions. 2 days after the story came out, I interviewed Senator Harry Reid, who was the one who got the money to create that program that became ATIP. And he said his phone had been ringing off the hook from other members of Congress who are now suddenly interested. I didn't know there was a program, they're telling him. How do we learn more about this? It started a series of closed-door briefings on Capitol Hill that continue to this day. The pilots, like Dave Fravor, were hauled before Congress, first in front of the staff of the Senate Intelligence and then Senate Armed Services, and then the elected members, these senators who get briefed on it, and they were impressed, and they wanted more pilots to come in. So it's been going on for 2.5 years, and 2 weeks ago, about a month ago now, the culmination of it, Senator Marco Rubio, who is now the chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, drops this bill, and it's the budget for the intelligence budget for the next year, and he includes a UFO provision in there. Congress wants to have a mechanism set up where we get regular briefings from the Pentagon on UFOs. That's an astonishing change of events. It's because of the media pressure and then congressional interest. It made it more acceptable for everybody to pursue the subject matter. It's kind of out of the shadows. And the Pentagon has reacted in fits and starts. So sometimes, as they said to the New York Times, that program ended. Had nothing to do with UFOs. At first they said it did, then they said it didn't. They've admitted Lou Elizondo worked on the program, then they said he didn't. They've said that the OSAP, which is the other program, the mother program that became ATIP, that had nothing to do with UFOs, but it did. So they continue to sort of lie and obfuscate and muddy the waters. But the fact is that there's too much momentum from media and Congress and the public to hide this anymore.
Yeah, man. Very interesting. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope that, distracted you from, if you were worrying about something before, for a few minutes. Check out Joe Rogan as if he needs me to promote him. Take care. Have a great day. And thanks so much for checking this out. And cheers.
My God. I'm going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots from the west. I won't take that. It's not honest, though, is it? It's not. I don't understand. But if there's another thing, it's rotated. You got to